House Stark. Of all the great families in Westeros, the Starks carry a different kind of weight. They do not rule through wealth, cunning, or fear. They rule through something older, a sense of duty so deeply embedded in who they are that it becomes almost indistinguishable from their identity. Their seat is Winterfell. Their words are "winter is coming," and their bloodline stretches back further than almost any other noble family on the continent. In a world full of political games and shifting allegiances, the Starks are the house that most consistently refuses to play along, and they pay for it repeatedly.
The First Men. The Starks trace their ancestry to the First Men, the original human inhabitants of Westeros who arrived on the continent thousands of years before the events of the series. The First Men came from Essos, across a land bridge that no longer exists, and fought the Children of the Forest for generations before eventually making peace with them. That agreement, known as the Pact, is one of the oldest events in Westerosi history. The Stark bloodline runs directly back to those ancient people, which is why the family still follows the old gods rather than the faith of the Seven that most of the rest of Westeros adopted centuries later.
Winterfell. The Stark seat is not just a castle. Legendary Winterfell is one of the oldest continuously inhabited structures in Westeros, built thousands of years ago by a legendary figure known as Bran the Builder, the same man said to have constructed the wall. What makes it unusual is the network of hot springs running beneath it, warming the walls and floors even through the harshest northern winters. It sits surrounded by forest and cold in a landscape that is hostile to anyone not built for it. The Starks have held Winterfell through every major war the continent has faced, which says something about both the castle and the people inside it.
The Old Gods. While most of Westeros follows the faith of the Seven, a religion brought by the Andal invaders centuries ago, the Starks never converted. They still worship the Old Gods, the ancient forces the First Men and the Children of the Forest both revered long before organized religion reached the North. The Old Gods have no priests, no temples, and no written texts. Worship happens in God's woods, quiet groves centered on a weirwood tree with a carved face set to watch and listen. The Starks keep a God's wood at Winterfell, and generations of the family have prayed there. It connects them to something far older than kingdoms or thrones.
Winter is coming! Most noble houses in Westeros chose words that sound triumphant, declarations of fire, honor, or power. The Starks chose a warning. Winter is coming is not a boast or a threat. It is a reminder that comfort never lasts, that prosperity is always temporary, and that survival requires constant preparation. In the North, winter is not a season. It is a force that can last for years and kill everything in its path. The Starks built their entire identity around this reality. It shapes how they raise their children, how they govern, and how they view the rest of Westeros, which they often see as dangerously unprepared for what is always coming. Ned Stark. Eddard Stark, known to almost everyone as Ned, is the figure the entire series is built around, even though he does not survive its first season. He was Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North, and a man whose sense of honor was so absolute it became his greatest vulnerability. He fought alongside Robert Baratheon in the rebellion that toppled the Targaryens, and later served as Robert's Hand of the King. In King's Landing, he uncovered a secret about the royal succession and chose to act on it honestly rather than carefully. That decision cost him his life. His death told the audience something the show never lets them forget. Doing the right thing is not always enough. Robb Stark. After Ned's execution, his eldest son became the face of the Stark cause. Robb was young, skilled in battle, and followed by men who believed in him completely. The Northern Lords named him King in the North, the first to carry that title in generations, and he won every battle he fought. His problem was never the battlefield. It was everything around it. He broke a marriage alliance with House Frey to marry a woman he loved, a decision that was honorable and catastrophic in equal measure. The Red Wedding, arranged by Tywin Lannister and carried out by Walder Frey, ended Robb's campaign, his army, and his life in a single night. He was undefeated and destroyed anyway.
Jon Snow. Jon grew up believing he was Ned Stark's bastard son, a fact the family carried quietly and never discussed openly. He joined the Night's Watch, eventually rose to Lord Commander, was killed by his own men, and came back. His true identity? The son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, making him the legitimate heir to the Iron Throne, was hidden by Ned from the moment he was born. Jon never fully wanted the power that truth carried with it. Every time others tried to place a crown on him, he stepped back. His final act was not a conquest. It was an ending he chose at enormous personal cost because he believed it was right.
Sansa Stark. Sansa began the series as the Stark child most eager to leave the North behind. She wanted the South, the court, and the life she had read about in songs. What she found instead was years of captivity and survival under some of the most dangerous people in Westeros. Joffrey, Cersei, Littlefinger, and Ramsay Bolton. Each experience stripped something away and replaced it with something harder. By the time she returned to Winterfell, Sansa had become one of the most politically capable characters in the story. Not through violence, but through watching, learning, and waiting. She ended the series as Queen in the North, the only Stark who arguably got exactly what they deserved.
Arya Stark. Arya was never going to sit still for her lessons, and the story never asked her to. She trained under Syrio Forel, survived the fall of her family as a fugitive across a broken country, and eventually made her way to Braavos to study under the Faceless Men. The training cost her nearly everything, including her name and her sense of self. She came back to Westeros with a list of people she intended to kill and the skills to follow through on it. She worked through that list methodically over years. Her killing of the Night King, fast, unexpected, and completely decisive, was the single most consequential act of the entire final war.
Bran Stark. Bran's story begins with a fall. Pushed from a window by Jaime Lannister after witnessing something he should not have seen, he survived with his legs paralyzed and something else quietly awakening inside him. He had always had strange dreams. Visions, as it turned out. His journey beyond the wall led him to the Three-Eyed Raven, an ancient being who passed on the ability to see through time and across vast distances. By the end of the series, Bran was no longer quite the boy who fell from that tower. He had become something closer to a living record than a person, and the Lords of Westeros chose him as their king, which he accepted with the calm of someone who had already seen it coming.